Welcome back to Cast of Wonders, the fiction podcast for young adults featuring stories of the fantastic. I'd say Happy New Year, but really the year's not all that new anymore, is it? Instead, I'll say I hope you had a great holiday season and your 2013 has started well. Last week, we announced a change here at Cast of Wonders. We have a new editor, Marguerite Kenner. Regular listeners will know Marguerite from her wonderful narrations, and now she brings her irresistible energy to picking great stories for you. Welcome, Marguerite. We begin the Cast of Wonders year with The Egg Game by S.R. Algernon. S.R. Algernon has been an avid reader of science fiction for many years. He studied fiction writing in North Carolina, USA, and currently lives in Singapore, where making mischief with eggs in lifts would be strongly and justifiably frowned upon. Your narrator today is me, so let's get on with it. And now we've... how does it go again? Come on, it hasn't been that long. And now we've a whale to sell. No, wait. Wait, got it. And now we've a tale to tell. The Egg Game by S.R. Algernon. I would never have invented the egg game if our parents had taken us, that is me and my little brother Donnie, on a real vacation. Don't tell them that, though. Donnie and I will never live it down if we admit even for a second that our parents are capable of doing anything cool, even by accident. It all started last summer, about a week after school let out. Our parents cast suspicious eyes over our glowing report cards and with a sigh or two agreed to take us on a trip to space. We were thinking of Lunar World or the balloon cities of Venus. But a week before launch day, we found out that no, we were going to the Sunspot. The Sunspot turned out to be a flotel resort just far enough out of the atmosphere so that our parents technically kept their promise. It spun like a giant bicycle wheel for gravity. Its elevators ran along the spokes so that someone could get a workout at the gym on the 1.5 G level, ride inward, or up, to the normal level for lunch, and then continue on to one of those floating zero-G Tai Chi groups. Blech. It had all the stuff adults like to do, but as far as Donnie and I were concerned, it might as well have been a bus station. Look at those kids over there, I said to Donnie as we bounded along one of the station's low-G corridors on the way back from the Space Junk Museum. They've got Lunar World wristbands. They must be passing through on their way back. Don't you want to just throw something at them? Asked Donnie. He tossed a bag of peanuts to himself, sending it upwards at just the right angle to compensate for the station's movement so that it traced a gently curved path back to his hand. Seeing Donnie juggle gave me an idea. Once we got into the elevator, just behind the Lunar World kids, I looked up at the emergency hatch. I imagined something suitably icky stuck up there just well enough that the gentle deceleration of stopping at a floor wouldn't dislodge it. But by the time the elevator got to Earth gravity, just imagine the look on those rich kids' faces. Let's go back to the store, I said. I'm going to buy a carton of eggs and a pack of chewing gum. Once I'd explained the idea, Donnie came up with the scoring system. One of us would go up to the zero-G level, stick the egg to the emergency hatch, and leave a disposable camera wedged against the handrail. The other one would wait at the 1G level and pick up the camera when nobody was looking. Whoever placed the egg would get 1 point for every floor the egg managed to visit before meeting its demise. He'd get 100 points if the egg hit someone directly, as opposed to merely splattering their shoes, and 1,000 points if that person were famous enough that our prank made it onto the mainstream news sites. Donnie scored 5 points in the first try. The only person in the car was a guy in a suit who stood all the way in the back of the car, so wrapped up in the video streaming past his corneas that he wouldn't have noticed an alien invasion. He stepped over the remains of the egg on his way out. The clean-up bot rolled out from its compartment and took care of the mess a few minutes later. "I can beat that," I said, but I knew I'd have to hurry. Security would wonder where the egg came from, and eventually they'd get around to reviewing the surveillance video. I took the next car up to the 0G level and placed the egg. I chose a spot a centimetre off-centre to compensate for the curved trajectory, the way bowlers intentionally aim off to the side when they hook the ball. Ha! This is a real sport, I thought, and I'm going to put some brain power into it. I felt like an Olympic gymnast, sticking a landing as I stashed the camera, pushed off from the wall and floated into the empty corridor. Nobody there. Drat. In a flash of insight, I hit the down button. The elevator AI knew people sometimes took a while to bounce into the elevator, so it kept the doors open for a minute. With that much time, I'd have a chance to pick up a passenger or two. A few seconds later, I heard a commotion. 4 security guards floated in from around the corner on circular platforms. Gas hissed from the platform's navigation vents as they rounded the corner. I thought the game was up until my initial panic faded, and I got a good look. The guards floated in a diamond formation. In the centre of the diamond, gliding deftly through the corridor, was a pale, balding man wearing a black suit and a glittering Starfield tie. I knew immediately that he was Zed Nolan, spokesperson for the Colonial Advocates Alliance. Cameras hovered over the head of the lead guard, angling for the best shot of Nolan's smug grin. They didn't have to tilt their lenses too far down. Nolan was over 2 metres tall. His height proved to the world that he was not built for the stifling grip of Earth's gravity. A throng of reporters, hecklers and well-wishers trailed along after him. They didn't handle 0G quite so deftly, and they piled up in the corner as they pushed off the wall, giving the security guards a chance to pull away from the crowd. "Everyone back away," said the leader of the security detail. "That's the rules, folks. Nobody in the elevator but him." I floated past them like it was the most natural thing in the world, and I waited until I blended in with the crowd before cupping my hand over my earpiece and calling Donnie. "You'll never guess who just got into the elevator," I said, not waiting for an answer. "It's Zed Nolan, the one on the talk shows, the one who always makes Dad yell at the screen. If the egg lands on him, it's 1,000 points for sure." "Oh, he's like 8 feet tall," said Donnie. "He'll break the egg before it has a chance to fall. Then you won't have any points." "You never said anything about the egg falling," I said, remembering his rules to the letter. "All it has to do is hit him." "No fair," said Donnie without conviction. I turned back toward Nolan to catch a good glimpse of him before the door closed. He had about 10 centimetres of clearance between the egg and his head, and he stood directly beneath it, close enough that I swear I could see its shell reflected on his sweaty skin. In that moment, I felt like I could match his smug grin tooth for tooth. Victory was mine. After that, I waited. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. I convinced myself that Donnie didn't want to look and that he'd hide behind plausible deniability. It didn't matter. Zed Nolan with literal egg on his face would be every Earthside journalist's dream. That 1,000 points would be mine for sure. My phone chimed after 7 minutes. "What did you do?" said Donnie. For a while, that was all I could get out of him. In the background, I heard yelling. I heard footsteps and the tips of Donnie's shoelaces against the ground. They were always too long, and Mum said they were a safety hazard. But they were the least of our problems now. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I've been waiting for you to call." I mean, what did you do with that egg? There's blood everywhere. Zed Nolan is dead. He can't be. It's just an egg. I don't see any egg, just blood. Oh, we're going to be in so much trouble. What are we going to do? It'll be all right, Donnie, I said, surprised at how quickly I stepped into Big Brother mode. Just find the nearest security guard and tell him the truth. You were waiting for the elevator, the door opened and you saw what you saw. Can you do that? I think so. No, wait, no. Before you say anything, look in the elevator. Do you see my camera? No, it's gone. All right, go. Tell Mum and Dad what happened. I have to think. I remembered how it started, with Nolan alone in the elevator, and tried to imagine how the scene played out. Someone else must have gotten on at a lower floor, maybe at a low-G maintenance level. The assassin killed him and knelt over the body to make sure he's dead. Next, the assassin had to escape before the doors opened again, so he reached up and hit the emergency stop button. The elevator slams to a stop, giving the egg enough relative downward acceleration to overcome the chewing gum. There was no egg on the floor because it all wound up on the back of the assassin's jacket. But where could he have gone? I looked around the elevator lobby until I found a door with an emergency use only, alarm will sound sign. I pushed on the door and it resisted for 10 seconds before giving in. On any other day, that 10 seconds would have given security enough time to see what I was up to, but they had other things on their minds. I stepped into an open shaft, which should have scared me except that I'd been floating around for most of the afternoon. I drifted downward, caught hold of one of the C-shaped rungs in the wall, and climbed back up to the doorway. The assassin was down there, I thought, on his way to whatever escape route he had planned. All I had to stop him with was a backpack and a nearly full carton of eggs. At first, my instinct was to hold the egg out as far as I could to the middle of the shaft and let it go, like dropping a pebble into a well. Then I remembered where I was and that fake gravity didn't work like the real thing. I noticed that the ladder was on the retrograde side of the shaft, that is, the side that was forever catching up with the rest of the shaft as the station spun. If people fell off the ladder, they would follow the straight line path of their own momentum and the ladder would catch up to them. That was a nice safety feature, I thought. It kept anyone from drifting too far from the ladder. It also gave me an idea. There was just enough space between the rung and the wall for the egg to pass between them. Or, to put it another way, there was space for the egg or a set of knuckles, but not both. I held the egg inside a C-shaped rung of the ladder so that the succession of rungs formed a tunnel, and then I let it roll instead of drop. The nudge from the wall kept it in place as it disappeared into the darkness. A minute later I heard a soft crunch and a word that would have gotten me grounded for a week if I had set up within earshot of my parents. I spun around then, just about to climb back into the elevator lobby, when I saw a gun pointed at my head. Luckily, the arm holding that gun belonged to a pissed-off security guard. "Are you trying to get yourself killed, kid?" said the guard as he holstered his pistol. He's getting away, I said. "Whoever was in that elevator is climbing down to another level. You have to stop him before he can get off the station." "I found the breach," said the guard. "False alarm, some kid fooling around. I'll lock up the emergency hatch and meet you back at the crime scene." "I'm trying to tell you." I went through the whole story on the way back to the 1G level. I spent the next 4 hours in an interrogation room in the security office. The guards were more interested in getting me to shut up than asking me any questions, but I knew the real interrogation would start as soon as my parents got hold of me. Donnie, meanwhile, had cooked up a story about losing his camera while watching the ship's dock and getting lost when he went back to retrieve it. He'd said, no doubt with wide eyes and a bit of a sniffle, that he was only taking the elevator to the information booth to let his dear parents know where he was. Naturally, the recurring theme from my parents for the next few days was why I couldn't be good like my brother. I had the last laugh, though. The assassin showed up at a Greasy Spoon diner on the 1G ring and sat there drinking a coffee like he was waiting for someone. The waitress was used to seeing customers with flecks of egg in their moustaches after they finished eating. But it's not very often they have egg stains on their cuffs before they sit down, to say nothing of dried whites in their hair behind the ear. By that point, the murder was on the news, and every news channel flashed one of those "report anything suspicious" signs. The waitress thought it was suspicious, so she phoned it in. The next day, someone fished his blood-spattered and egg-soaked jacket out of a garbage bin by the elevator, and from then on the puns rolled in. "Yoke and dagger," said one blog. "Jack the Dripper," cried another. An American ventured, "Eggs Benedict Arnold." Whatever they called him, his face was on computer screens across the solar system, and that won me a cool 1,000 points. Donnie keeps talking about a rematch, but he's out of luck. Dad says we won't be going off planet again for a long, long time. And so ends the egg game. And I'll just say, don't try that at home, folks. Come tell us what you thought of the story in the forums at castofwonders.org/forums. The forums are open to everyone. You do have to register, but registration is quick and free. Come join us, maybe meet the authors and take part in story discussions, or chat about anything you like. Cast of Wonders is a production of Wolfsbane Publishing. The editor is Marguerite Kenner. The audio producer and host is Graham Dunlop. It's released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Share it, but don't change or sell it. Theme is Appeal to Heavens by Alexei Nov from musicalley.com.